I think that of all my years being involved in community service and political roles in the city, this is probably one of the most devastating things I think that I've had a chance to be a part of. When you think of a young man at 14 years old and how much life he had ahead of him and what he could have been. And I think that as political leaders in this community, it's our job to realize where we fell short and what investments we didn't make and what opportunities we didn't provide for him and what we can do to make those changes for his friends who still have to live in this community and who too have so much life ahead of them. So again, I think the most important thing here is just looking at where we fell short, where we can improve, and how we can move ahead to make it a better place for everyone. And so with that, I want to introduce the acting mayor, Alderwoman Rhonda Pendell-Charles.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. Normally, I would begin my remarks today with good afternoon. However, today, as with too many days, this is not a good afternoon for our city of Annapolis. My name is Rhonda Pendell-Charles. While Mayor Gavin Buckley is out of town, I'm serving as your acting mayor for the city of Annapolis. And I represent Ward 3, which includes this fine community of Annapolis Gardens, of which I am very proud to represent the people who live here. And I am a lifelong resident of Parole. For part of my life, I grew up right next door on Bowie Avenue. First, on behalf of the entire city of Annapolis, we would like to extend our sincere condolences and sympathies to the family of Cameron Wallace. At the age of 14, he was about to embark upon the prime of his life. A rising ninth grader, just leaving Wally H. Bates Middle School and onward and upward to Annapolis High School. Unfortunately, a life that now has been tragically cut short. All of our prayers go out to you. As a staff member with Anne Arundel County Public Schools, formerly based at a school, I'm particularly sensitive to our students and youth. As a mother of an African-American male and female, and the grandmother of an African-American male, I'm even more sensitized to the challenges of our African-American males. While I nor none of us can begin to feel the pain that you are feeling right now, be assured that we can feel empathy for his untimely death. Second, I, along with the mayor, was notified very late last evening, a little before midnight, regarding this shooting. Our police chief and I kept in constant contact and communication until 2:53 a.m., along with Mr. Adetola Ajayi from the mayor's office, our African American Community Services Specialist. This afternoon, I was notified by the mayor's chief of staff, Ms. Susie Stout-Smith, regarding this press conference. And immediately thereafter, I spoke with longtime community advocate, Ms. Yavola Peters, and with Alderman DeJuan Gay, just to gain a few more pieces of information about Cameron and his family. And Alderman Gay is a member of our City Council's Public Safety Standing Committee. Third, the city is working feverishly to solve this homicide. As the City Council's Public Safety Standing Committee Chair, I work very closely with our police department, our fire department, and our Office of Emergency Management. And so I'm confident that all of the necessary resources and manpower have been put into place towards solving this heinous crime. As a career prosecutor in Baltimore City, now retired, I can truly understand firsthand the gravity of what happened last night. Fourth, we as a city are here for you. Very, very recently, we have established certain protocols in a situation such as this. Thus, these protocols remain very fluid, and we will attempt to constantly perfect our protocols and procedures as time goes on. Fifth, we would like for the family to know that within our city police department, at your disposal, is our crisis response team. We would strongly suggest that you make contact with them if they have not already contacted you. However, I'm confident that they have already contacted you. Six, we would like for the family to know that one of our clergy persons from our city's team of chaplains that are a part of our city's public safety team is available to you. Just let us know. We can provide you with the list of clergy, and you are free to select any one or more of them. Seventh, we would like for the family to know that within our city's public safety team is our Office of Emergency Management. This office is available if you need assistance when it comes to additional food. We understand that your household may be accepting additional guests into your home at this time. Eighth, as a staff member within the Anne Arundel County Public Schools Office of Equity at the central office here in Annapolis, I have notified our executive director regarding Cameron's death. As you may know, the normal procedure is for the principal of the school to be notified, and he or she, in turn, will notify the school counselor and other appropriate central office staff, especially for those students who need resources to process their grief, among other needs. Ninth, we would like for the family to know that our city continues to build upon our human resources capabilities that are here to assist all of our residents. This includes our county health department and many other agencies and initiatives that we have instituted here in the city of Annapolis, and we continue to institute under Mayor Buckley's administration. These services are here for you and for others in this community and in Annapolis. So feel free to call upon our mayor's office to access many of these free services. Again, overall, we continue to constantly perfect and increase the number of services that we provide for our residents. And 10th, on a personal note, feel free to reach out to me. I have my business card here so that you can email me at any time, 24/7, 366. Again, we as a city extend to you, a community and a family, our heartfelt sympathy, as well as our ability to assist you during this most difficult time. We are your servant leaders here in Annapolis. We love you. May God's grace continue to strengthen and uphold you. May your faith in God continue to sustain and comfort you. God has rested Cameron's soul. Thank you and amen.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Pendell Charles. Next up, we'll hear from State Delegate Shanika Henson.
Good afternoon. I want to start by, on behalf of the state, just offering our condolences to Cameron's family, to everyone who loved him, who cared for him, who coached him, mentored him, taught him, was a relative to him, called him, and considered him a friend. We offer our deepest condolences. As a person who represents this district, when something like this happens, the first thing that you do is you search and you examine your own record to say, was there something more I could have done to help, something more I could have done to have been a support? It is one thing to offer support after the fact. It is another thing to use your role and your leadership to make sure that you are preempting this type of senseless tragedy and violence. When I spoke to the police chief today, I said, what is it that we can do to be the most help right now? And he said, whatever it is, whatever credibility you have, whatever it is that people see and value in you as the leader, use that to ask the community to come forward to make sure that this family has peace and this family has justice. And that is why I am here today. It is on the call of our police chief. It is on the call of my fellow elected leaders to ask everyone to search their own hearts, to search their own records, to determine what they can do to bring this family peace and justice. 14 is too young to die. It should not have happened in our city. It should not have happened on our watch. And each of us has a responsibility to Cameron and to those who love him right now to make sure that we pick it up and we carry it forward to a place of justice. I am so very sorry that these are the circumstances we are meeting under. I am so very sorry that things like this too often are the reason that people are reinvigorated and motivated to do things for young people in our city. But we understand that as we have closed businesses, as we have closed things down, it is our young people who have been asked to bear a lot of that burden. Their sports programs have been shut down. Their opportunities to go to school in person have been taken away without viable alternatives in many instances. What we have asked our young people to do is to pick up the pieces in tragedy and to figure it out on their own. And that is not okay. As leaders, it is our responsibility to keep them safe. And last night we failed at that responsibility. And for that, I present myself to the community and the family, and I say to you, I am heartfully sorry that we could not keep that most sacred of public trust, and that is public safety. But what we can do is come together in this time, and we can try to do better and be better and find justice for Cameron and support his family in every way that they ask for support. If it is privacy, we will support them with privacy. If it is reaching out, we will support them with reaching out. But whatever it is that they need, we have a responsibility to them in this time. And so that responsibility starts with bringing justice, and that can only be done when a community comes together and stands up and says, we won't take this anymore, and we will make sure that we are not a safe place for people to do bad things. So I'm thankful to everyone who's come here to amplify this message so that we can begin the work to support this family. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Henson. I also wanted to acknowledge that our State Delegate Dana Jones is here as well. And also will now announce State Senator Sarah Alford to give words as well.
Thank you, Alderman, for organizing this, and thank you to the members of the media who are here. When we heard about the tragic loss this morning, I know, like many folks, we were speechless. You don't know how to find words to console a family who just lost a child, to console a community who faces this type of violence. And we've been thinking about it and talking about it all day. And I think Delegate Henson said it best, where we have a lot of self-reflection ahead of us. We have a lot of questions we need to ask about how to build better and safer and stronger communities for every single person who lives in Annapolis. And we clearly failed Cameron, and we can't afford to fail another child. And so we are here as a collective force asking that if anybody knows anything, to please go to the police, to please trust the police, to asking the state's attorney's office to work hand in hand with the police to bring this family some justice. It is the very, very least that we can give them through this tragedy. So thank you very much.
Next is Delegate Dana Jones.
Thank you. I'm so sorry for the loss. I've been speaking with my delegate mates, and there are no words. This was a child. This was someone's son. We have to do better. We have failed another child. It can't happen anymore. If you have information, please speak to the police. I call upon all of us. We must work together. This cannot continue. I thank you for coming. I ask that you please pray and lift up the family and all of those affected during this very difficult time. Thank you.
And just two more speakers before we hear an update from our police department. Next up is community activist Tony Strong Pratt.
Good evening, everybody. I want to pay my condolences to Trisha, Cameron's mom, and to say, gone too soon. We're here for yet another press conference. We'll be probably planning a vigil for a senseless loss of a life. My heart aches, my heart dropped. 14 years old. I have a granddaughter that's 12 years old. I can't imagine the mother's pain, what she must be going through. All the things that's going around in her head. The questions that she's asking herself right now, why couldn't I protect my son? But my call out is to us. When will we get sick and tired of being sick and tired? We can make posts on Facebook, gone too soon, rest in peace, but we can't hug our brothers and sisters. We can't come together as a community. The only way this is gonna get better is when we get better, because we can make it better. We can become better parents. We can become better community leaders. We can become better elected officials. This is not a one thing all fits all solution, but it's gonna take all of us coming together, playing our part and doing what we need to do, and hold elected officials accountable to make the changes that we need as it pertains to gun violence. There's no win here. It's a loss. We have a young man who we're gonna have to bury, and we have a person that's at large that when he's found is gonna be in the system. When is enough enough. Because I'm sick and tired. And I don't know what to do anymore. Our children have become numb to this violence. It's just like we bury one today, we say rest in peace. One dies tomorrow, this to my OG. When is enough enough? But the bottom line is, when you don't value your own life, it's hard to value somebody else's life. So this is a call to action for all of us. We need to huddle around this mother, Trisha, and all the other mothers and fathers who've buried their children and loved ones way too soon. Because we don't want to come out here again for senseless gun violence. And I would urge us in the midst of this pandemic to find things for our children to do. Idle time is the devil's workshop. And when we ask, where's God? He's right here, wondering, where are we? Thank you.
Next up is D. Ward, community activist.
I just want to send my condolences to the family, but to the people that's listening. Last night was a wake-up call, not just to the adults, but to the young people, to the friends and the families, and to the mothers that's weeping over deaths in the past times in our city, to the families that are afraid that this may happen to their children. I just want to apologize to y'all because we failing y'all. I want to take this opportunity to really tell people that all of us that previously spoke should be held accountable as well as the people out here making these actions, because it's really up to the community to stop these kind of actions. As we've seen time and time, these actions repeated themselves, and we ask for the same thing. We ask for justice, but yet we don't find the justice that we seeking. So it's really up to the community to step up, to fill these voids and gaps, and to really speak to our communities, to the family members that are the families of the members that are shooting our young people, to the families that are losing these young people. It's really time that we speak up and step up and represent the community. We've all made countless mistakes in our past, but we've all had somebody to pull us up. Who are the people to pull up our young people today? So I leave with, despite the things that we do in the community, it's just not enough. And when will we fill in these voids to make sure the communities are getting the right things that they deserve? Again, I'm just sorry to the family that we have to do this again.
So we'll get an update from our police department, and then afterwards we will follow up with some trauma-based resources and community resources as a whole. So our police chief, Ed Jackson.
Good afternoon. Before I get started, I'm Ed Jackson, Chief of Police for the City of Annapolis. To my right is Captain Mark Seidel, Chief of Detectives. To his left is Captain Timothy Lowe, Chief of Patrol. To his left is my Deputy Chief, Paul Hearn. And to his left is Stanley Bramford, I'm sorry. He's in charge of reentry, and he's also my cold case investigator. Basically, on the 27th of July, yesterday, at about 10:30 p.m., my officers received a call for a shooting in the 1800 block of Bowman Court. They were dispatched to this location. Upon their arrival, they found young 14-year-old Cameron Wallace, who had sustained several gunshot wounds. He was taken to an area hospital where he passed away from his injuries. I've had detectives working around the clock to try to determine, first of all, what happened, why it happened, and then most importantly, we are working to find out who's responsible. We will be in the area in the days to come. We need your help. Anything that you can tell us, no matter how small you think it is, we need your help in finding out who was responsible for the murder of young Cameron Wallace. Again, I can't say anything additionally that's already been said, but we have a violence problem in America right now. It's not unique to the city of Annapolis. There's trends of the escalation of violence in virtually every jurisdiction in America. Here in Maryland, Baltimore County has experienced it. Baltimore City, of course, has had a history of it, and other jurisdictions, Anne Arundel County, Howard County, this jurisdictions where this type of violence, and many of them, is very unusual. We owe it to young Cameron Wallace to really get the information out that it's not acceptable to come here and engage in this kind of lawlessness. There's no coming back from murder. Out of all the things you can do to an individual and crimes that you can commit against an individual, there's no coming back when you take their life. Homicide is no recovery. We leave the family with the heartache of having to move on without their loved one. And at the age of 14, as it's already been said, he's had so much to live for. So I just want to, I'll answer any questions, and I have my command staff here to answer any questions. Again, we have some initiatives planned in the days and weeks ahead. It's my goal, and I'm going to use every tool available to me to make sure that we find out who is responsible. We've already solicited our federal partners, our state partners. We're working with anybody who's willing to help us. And to the family, I would be remiss if I didn't publicly offer my prayers and condolences. I will be meeting with young Cameron Wallace's mother to reassure her that we'll do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the person or persons responsible for this heinous crime is brought to justice. And I just want to leave you with a couple of numbers. If you can pull this back up for me. I'm sorry, I let it go down. I just want the numbers. One of them is Metro Crime Stoppers. Any information, please call us at 1-866-LOCKUP. That's 1-866-LOCKUP. And you can call the Annapolis Police Department Criminal Investigation Division. And, that number is 410-260-3439. And again, we have detectives who have been working around the clock. I believe they've been working since this happened, and they're working as we speak at this press conference. So no piece of information is too small. Anything, descriptions, conversations, anything that you can give us that may help us determine who's responsible for this, please make sure that you contact us. You can do it confidentially. We'll do whatever we need to do to ensure that your identity is protected and the information that you provide us is kept confidential. Thank you.
Just before questions start, it is early in the investigation. There's a lot of information that we are gathering. We are getting community input and help. Our federal partners, the state and local partners have all reached out, so we are working hand in hand. But there's a lot of information we can't share yet. It is really, really early, but the investigation is going forward.
I would just like to reiterate that, as the chief said, we have been working around the clock. The uniformed personnel will be out here around the clock. If they're not out here, you don't see them at that point in time and you do need them, or you find out some information, please call the police. We need your help. Thank you.
Chief, Cameron was 14 years old. Is this one of the youngest victims of gun violence here in the city of Annapolis that you can remember?
Yes, I don't know the entire history, but he probably ranks as one of the youngest ever. I've been here a year now. Friday will be my first year. I was sworn in on July 31st, 2019. Through cold case, I've learned a lot about investigations going back as far as almost 50 years, and I've never seen a victim that young. It's not unusual, sadly to say. If you look at the national trends, we've had a 1-year-old killed in other jurisdictions, literally killed, and I mean murdered, not collateral damage. But to get back to your question, I believe young Cameron Wallace may be the youngest victim on record. I would have to research that further, but he's awfully young, and I don't think that there was ever one. And I know in recent history, I know that for a fact, he's the youngest one in recent history, maybe the youngest ever.
I know you said that your officers have been working around the clock, and it hasn't necessarily been 24 hours yet, but have they had any leads?
Well, I don't want to talk about anything too prematurely. Any information, though, that we received and have received, we've been following up on it vigorously. We still haven't determined a lot of things yet, so I don't want to say anything premature, because from the time we started with the processing of the crime scene, that we have to keep in mind a case that we have to be able to take into a court of law and make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. So to answer your question, it's still very early on. You know, this has been since about 10:35 last night, and any bits of information that we have received, we followed up. But we have a long way to go. We still have a lot of information to go.
Thank you.
We've seen some of your officers stationed out here today. Is this an area that's usually on their patrol route as well?
Yes, in this area, and I have my chief of patrol behind me and my chief of CID as well as my deputy chief, and we were talking earlier today. It's been quiet here. I mean, this area has experienced violence in the past, but the last several years, I think the last violent act we had, extremely violent act, was around 2016. Yeah, so we're going back 4 or 5 years since the last time we had any major problems in this area. It's been relatively quiet. That's why it was kind of surprising when this location was dispatched and we discovered that young Cameron had been shot. Very unusual in recent years.
You said young Cameron was hit multiple times by gunshots. Do we know if there was an exchange of gunfire? One person shooting?
That's Alex. That's still under investigation. That hasn't been determined yet. We just know that we found him and he had sustained multiple gunshot wounds. And we're looking at everything. I mean, we're looking at everything, video cameras, Captain Seidel's detectives expend hours upon hours upon hours looking at video footage, you know, from different jurisdictions. So we're still very early on. We don't know that information at this time.
Are there cameras in this community? It's hard not to notice the one right behind you.
The cameras that are here at this point in time are not functional that we know of, but we're going to have people try to pull hard drives in the sets to see that any loss captured. But the cameras that are behind me at this point have not borne any type of information yet.
So that camera behind you is not functional?
It's, as far as we know, without pulling hard drives. I don't want to say it's not, and then 2 days from now we pull a hard drive or something there, but that's what they're after.
So when you say that there's video surveillance and it's not coming from those cameras, where is it coming from?
There's anywhere in the general vicinity between Ring doorbells, private entities that have cameras in loading docks and parking lots. It comes down to every single place that may possibly be on routes that we would pull cameras from. Ingress, egress, and anything else from between. Plus any other type of camera action we would have for the victim's associates or anything like that, trying to piece a timeline together.
Captain, what do you spell your name?
It's S-E-I-D-E-L. S-E-I-D-E-L. First name's Mark, M-A-R-K.
With a K or C?
With a K.
So what the captain spoke about, the crime scenes can be vast. That becomes a part of the crime scene. If we discovered egress or ingress on some surrounding street, then that becomes a part of the investigation.
I know it's early, but still too early to say any sort of motive or any indications on that front?
That's still being investigated, Alex. We're still trying to determine that.
I have a question. So am I correct in hearing you say these cameras are not functional?
Well, we don't want to commit to that, Tony. We don't want to say they're not functional. We haven't been able to see anything thus far, but what the captain just spoke to is that he's going to check the hard drive, the DVR or the hard drive, and then just hopefully we can get something from that.
I also have a question. How often are we checking these types of things so that we don't wait until the time committee to figure out that the equipment doesn't work?
Well, it depends. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Ms. Brown. Yes, I understand your question. It depends. Some of these are private property, so it depends on the location. It's a relative question. They all should work. I get your point. They all should be operational fully. That's why we have them. And then cameras, sometimes the technology goes down for a whole myriad of reasons as to why they doesn't work. And we're not even saying that. I'm not committing it. I don't think Captain Seidel committed that they didn't work. We just haven't been able to get anything thus far. But as soon as we do, we'll let the community know. Of course, we like to put out BOLOs. BOLO is the acronym for Be on the Lookout. And of course, any type of information that we should alert the public, it's a public safety issue, we should alert the public on, we will, based on any video footage that we eventually discover. And I'm confident that we will. I have some of the hardest working detectives that you'll find anywhere in Maryland. And if it can be obtained, I'm confident that Captain Seidel and his detectives will get that information.
Chief, obviously we're standing here in an area with a playground. Is this right where it happened, right over here by the playground?
I don't want to, it's close enough.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll go ahead and commit to that, yes.
What does that say to you?
Well, I'll say this, Alex. Yes, that's it. It's brazen. I mean, as you well know, anybody from these windows could have looked out at any time and saw it. We're having murders now in broad daylight. This is a commentary. It's not necessarily relative to this case, but we have such hopelessness and such rage that it takes very little criminologically for trigger pullers. And many of them are very young. Many of them don't realize the impact of what they do. Many of them are still maturing as human beings, and they have guns in their hands. And it's an American problem. It's not only an Annapolis problem. It's not only a Maryland problem. It's an American problem. There's far too many handguns that are in the hands of people who shouldn't have them for a whole myriad of reasons. But yes, sir, to answer your question, that's a brazen act. And it wasn't a random act, but a very brazen act. And that tells me that whatever should have deterred you, in the old days, the thought was that you did it when you felt like the chances were slim to none that you would be discovered. Now we have gunmen who are pulling out guns in broad daylight and committing brazen acts. And that has to stop. That's a community problem. It's a law enforcement problem, but it's also a community problem. It's a societal problem that we have to collectively address. I'm only as powerful in my command staff standing behind me as the community that supports me. And without community support, without information, that's how most crimes are solved. We have to get the community involved, and we have to get the community outraged enough that they want to see killers out of their community.
Last question for me, sorry. You just said that this wasn't a random act, so you believe that it was targeted?
Well, it's the evidence, with the information we have, I shouldn't say evidence, let me rephrase that. The information we have, I'm not talking about the evidence, but the information we have suggests that it may not have been a random act, and I don't believe it is. I'm speaking as Chief Jackson, I don't believe it was a random act based on the information.
Okay, thank you.